She walked down the marble staircase in a $6,000 wedding gown, holding a glass of champagne like it was a trophy. Her guests clapped. Cameras flashed. Laughter echoed through the hall of that Palm Springs mansion. And then she saw me, standing in the corner of the room, holding a folder. Inside, the police report, the forged mortgage documents, the subpoena, everything that would bring her dream crashing down. That mansion, the ring on her finger, the luxury SUV parked outside, all of it, built on my stolen name. My name is Rachel Monroe. I'm 31 years old. And a year ago, I had perfect credit, $70,000 in savings, and a plan to buy my first condo in Seattle. I lived simply. I worked hard. I didn't ask for much. But my younger sister, Sierra, she always wanted more than she earned, more than she deserved, and definitely more than she could afford. So she took it from me. Before we go further, let me know where you're watching from. Drop a comment if you've ever been betrayed by someone who was supposed to protect you. Because what I'm about to tell you isn't just about financial fraud. It's about trust. It's about blood. And it's about the moment I realized I wasn't the older sister anymore. I was the mark. This story doesn't begin with the bridal shower. It begins 6 months earlier, on a cloudy Thursday morning, with a phone call that shattered everything I thought I knew. I remember the exact moment. I was reviewing a quarterly budget for a new client, sipping my usual cold brew, when an unknown number lit up my screen. I hesitated. Then I answered. "Hi, this is Rachel Monroe." A pause. "Ms. Monroe, this is Dana with West Valley Lending. I'm calling about your mortgage. You're 45 days delinquent." I blinked. My what? And that's when the floor beneath my world cracked wide open. "I'm sorry, there must be some mistake," I said, my voice tightening. "I don't have a mortgage." Another pause. "Ms. Monroe, our records show a $858,000 mortgage under your name for a property in Palm Springs. Payments began in January. You've missed both March and April. We're now preparing for pre-foreclosure action." I felt the color drain from my face. Palm Springs? I live in Seattle. I rent a 1-bedroom apartment in Capitol Hill. I barely leave town, let alone buy luxury homes in California. Could you email me the loan documents?" I managed to say. "Of course," she said. "I'll send them right away." I hung up and stared at my laptop screen, heart pounding. Within 5 minutes, the documents arrived. And there it was. My full name, my social security number, my employer listed accurately, banking information I hadn't shared with anyone but my accountant. It even had a signature that looked eerily like mine, but I knew I hadn't signed anything. And the address, it hit me like a truck. 417 Vantage Ridge Drive, Palm Springs. That was the exact address Sierra had casually dropped during a brunch 2 months ago while sipping a lavender latte and telling me about her new life. She said her fiancé, Jackson, had bought them a house with a pool, a view, and a walk-in closet that could fit a car. I remember laughing nervously, assuming it was all exaggeration. But now it was horrifyingly real. I opened Google Maps, typed in the address. The street view loaded slowly. When it finally did, my breath caught. It was a sprawling white mansion with a terracotta roof, gated entrance, palm trees, and yes, a pool shaped like a piano in the backyard. It looked like a vacation house for someone who made 8 figures a year. Not for a part-time fashion blogger who hadn't held a steady job in 3 years. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to believe she would do this. But deep down, a small voice whispered what I already knew. It had to be Sierra. No one else had access to that kind of personal information. No one else had asked me to co-sign for something small last winter and got mad when I said no. No one else had been living like royalty with no visible income stream. I felt like I was going to be sick. I called her right away. No answer. I called again, straight to voicemail. Then I texted, "We need to talk. Right now. About Palm Springs." She replied 2 hours later. Only 2 words. "Can't talk." And that's when the fear turned into certainty. My own sister had stolen my identity, and I was about to lose everything because of her. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind spinning faster than I could slow it down. What else had she done? How far had it gone? And how much of my life had been stolen while I wasn't looking? By 6 a.m., I was on my laptop, eyes bloodshot, coffee untouched. The mortgage was just the tip of the iceberg. I pulled up my credit report for the first time in months. I wish I hadn't. There it was. For new credit cards I had never opened. Limits: $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $35,000. All maxed out. All opened in the past 6 months. All sent to addresses in California. Each account listed me as the primary cardholder. Each had my social, my birthday, my employment history. She hadn't just bought a house. She had created a financial clone of me and burned it to the ground. My perfect credit score, once sitting proudly at 798. Now, 532. That number hit harder than the mortgage, because the house could be foreclosed. But my reputation, my ability to rent, buy, apply for jobs, that was me. And she had trashed it. I called all 4 credit card companies, one by one. I repeated the same breathless speech. This is identity theft. I didn't open this. I have proof. They were polite, but skeptical. Each one needed paperwork, police reports, investigation timelines. This won't be resolved overnight, they said. One of them even asked me, "Are you sure this wasn't a shared account with a spouse?" I laughed. It came out hollow and bitter. I wasn't married. I barely even dated. The only person who knew me well enough to forge my life was my sister. When I called her again that afternoon, the call rang once, then went to voicemail. I texted again. "Sierra, I need you to call me. You've done something serious." No reply. I emailed her. I even DM'd her on Instagram. Nothing. But she was posting. New photo, new caption. Palm Springs mornings. Manifest it, and it's yours, Dizzy Sparkles. She stood by the pool in a white robe, holding an iced matcha. The same pool from the mortgage documents. The same house I now apparently owned. I stared at the post until my hands shook. She was living in my identity, and I was being buried under her fantasy. That evening, I opened a fresh Google Doc and titled it in all caps. Evidence: Sierra Monroe identity theft. It was time to fight back, even if it meant going to war with my own blood. By Saturday morning, I was done waiting. I had screenshots, bank statements, credit reports, even the post where she called the Palm Springs mansion her dream home. But what I didn't have was her. Sierra had gone completely silent. Calls, ignored. Texts, left on read. Emails, unopened. I even tried calling our mother. Big mistake. "Rachel," she said sharply, before I could explain, "can't this wait until after Sierra's bridal shower? I'm being sued by a bank over a house I didn't buy, Mom." "Sweetheart, I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. Sierra said she's got it handled." "Got it handled?" "She took out a mortgage in my name." There was a long pause. Then the tone I hadn't heard since childhood, the one where I stopped being the daughter and started being the fixer. "Maybe you gave her permission and forgot. You're always so busy with work." I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back. But in that moment, something broke. Not just trust, but the illusion that anyone was going to step in and fix this for me. I booked a flight to Palm Springs. One way. I had the address. I had the documents. I had nothing left to lose. The Uber dropped me off at the gated entrance of 417 Vantage Ridge Drive. I could barely believe what I was seeing. This wasn't just a house. It was a statement. 6 bedrooms. Balconies with sheer white curtains floating in the breeze. An entryway that looked like it belonged on the cover of Architectural Digest. It was breathtaking. And it wasn't hers. It wasn't even mine. It was a fantasy. Funded by fraud. Built on betrayal. I rang the bell. No answer. I rang again. Still nothing. I walked around the side, peeking through the glass panels. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Like no one lived there at all. No pictures. No shoes by the door. No signs of life. Only stage perfection. As if the whole place had been set up to impress, not to live in. I stepped back, heart pounding. Was she gone? Was this all smoke and mirrors? Then I heard a car door slam behind me. I turned, and there she was. Sierra. Hair blown out. Phone in one hand. Shopping bags in the other. Wearing sunglasses she definitely couldn't afford. When she saw me, she froze. Then, slowly, she smiled. "Rachel," she said too brightly. "What a surprise." I walked toward her. "We need to talk. About the house. About the mortgage. About everything." She shifted her weight, glanced toward the front door. "I can't right now," she said quickly. "I've got a facial in 20 minutes. I stared at her. "You're serious?" She shrugged. "We'll catch up soon. I promise." Then she turned her back and walked inside. And just like that, the confrontation I came all this way for never happened. But next time, she wouldn't have a choice. I flew back to Seattle the next morning. I didn't speak to Sierra. I didn't speak to Mom. I barely even spoke to the flight attendant offering me ginger ale. I sat in 19A with my laptop open and my fists clenched, building a document that would eventually take down the only family I had left. At the top of the file, I typed, "Evidence, Sierra Monroe identity theft, case for legal action." Underneath it, I started listing everything. The mortgage documents with my forged signature, credit card accounts I'd never opened, mailing addresses in California I'd never lived at, screenshots of Sierra's Instagram posts inside the stolen house, texts she'd ignored, voicemails she never returned. I created folders, subfolders, timelines. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about truth. It was about getting my name back. And maybe, just maybe, making her face what she'd done. That week, I took the most important lunch break of my life. I walked into a law office tucked inside a quiet building overlooking Elliott Bay. The receptionist offered me water. I declined. 10 minutes later, I was shaking hands with Karen Doyle, a fraud and identity theft attorney in her early 40s. She had the kind of calm, sharp presence that made you feel both reassured and very aware you were about to enter a war zone. I laid out everything. She didn't interrupt. She just nodded slowly as I spoke, occasionally jotting something down. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and said, "Rachel, I'm going to be honest with you. This is one of the most extensive cases of family-based identity theft I've ever seen." I swallowed. "What happens now?" "Well," she said, tapping the mortgage document with a pen, "you've got 2 options. Option 1, try to handle this privately. Convince your sister to admit what she did and transfer everything back, including responsibility for the debt." I blinked. "She won't." Karen nodded. "Option 2, file a police report. Initiate a full criminal investigation. That will give you legal grounds to challenge all the debt. The mortgage, the credit cards, everything." She paused. "But doing that means pressing charges. It means your sister could face jail time. And your mother might never speak to you again." I looked down at my hands. They were trembling. "She stole over $800,000 in my name," I said quietly. "And she's living like a queen while I'm drowning in debt." Karen nodded once. "Then let's take her crown away." By the time I left her office, I had a new folder in my bag. Legal complaint, Monroe versus Monroe. And for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. Not because it was over, but because I had finally stopped being silent. I wasn't invited to the bridal shower. Of course I wasn't, but that didn't matter. I showed up anyway, dressed in navy blue, hair tied back, folder in hand, not to humiliate her, not to ruin the day, but to finally say the thing no one else would say. The truth. The event was held at a rented estate in Napa Valley. Lush vineyard views, floral centerpieces the size of toddlers, champagne flowing like it was coming from a busted pipe. I spotted our mother near the entrance, laughing like nothing was broken. And there she was, Sierra, floating through the crowd in a champagne-colored dress, holding court like royalty, her makeup flawless, her lies intact, until she saw me. The smile cracked, just a little. I walked toward her. "Rachel," she said, feigning surprise. "You came." I didn't answer. Instead, I placed the folder on the dessert table, right between the macarons and the wedding cake samples. "What's that?" she asked, suddenly less confident. "Evidence," I said, "in case anyone here's wondering who really paid for this party." The room quieted. People turned. Forks froze midair. I opened the folder and took out the first page. "The police report. This is what I filed last week," I said calmly. "For identity theft, $858,000 worth of it." Gasps. Murmurs. One of Sierra's bridesmaids covered her mouth. Rachel, what are you doing? Our mother hissed, stepping forward. I'm telling the truth, I said. Something you've both ignored long enough. Next came the mortgage document, with my forged signature. Then the credit card statements. Then screenshots of Sierra inside the Palm Springs mansion, holding champagne like it was hers. Because it was. Stolen with my name. Sierra's face had gone pale. She tried to laugh. This is a misunderstanding. Rachel agreed to help with the financing until Jackson refinances the property. That's a lie, I said, loud enough for the back row to hear. I never agreed to anything. I never even met Jackson. And there's no refinance happening. You used me. And now you're going to answer for it. Her voice cracked. This isn't the time or place. It's exactly the time and place. I looked around at the crowd. You all came here to celebrate love and honesty and a future built together. But this entire celebration was paid for with fraud, with debt, with the destruction of someone else's life, mine. Sierra's eyes filled with tears. But I didn't move. I filed a criminal complaint. There's an open investigation. And if anyone here feels the need to question whether I'm being too harsh, I suggest you imagine waking up one morning with your entire life stolen. I closed the folder. Dead silence. No applause. No shouting. Just truth settling over the room like a dropped chandelier. Then I picked up the folder, turned, and walked out the same way I came in. Calm. Certain. Done being quiet. I didn't make it back to Seattle before the messages started pouring in. Aunt June. Couldn't this have waited, Rachel? Cousin Lydia. You embarrassed your mother. I hope it was worth it. Even my mother, who hadn't texted me in months, finally broke her silence. Call me now. I didn't. I needed time to breathe, to sit in the quiet of my apartment, with the folder still on my kitchen table, and remind myself that I hadn't done anything wrong. Sierra had stolen my identity. I had revealed it. That's not revenge. That's survival. But by Monday morning, the real pressure began. It started with my mother, of course. She showed up at my building without warning, buzzed in by someone else, and knocked like she owned the place. I opened the door slowly, bracing myself. She stepped in, eyes red-rimmed but blazing. How dare you ruin your sister's shower like that? I stared at her, stunned. Are you serious right now? She was crying for hours, she said, throwing her purse on my couch. She may lose everything. She already stole everything from me. She made a mistake, a big one, but dragging it into a room full of people was cruel. I exhaled. This isn't about public embarrassment, Mom. It's about felony-level fraud. It's about my credit, my savings, my future. She waved it off. You're strong. You'll recover. Sierra's always been more fragile. There it was, the narrative I had grown up with. Rachel, the stable one, the responsible one, the one expected to clean up every mess, no matter how catastrophic. I shook my head. I'm not doing this again. You need to drop the complaint. No. She's your sister. She's a criminal. The word landed like a slap. Mom grabbed her purse, eyes sharp. If you don't drop this, don't expect me at your wedding, or hospital bed, or funeral. Don't expect family. I didn't say a word. She slammed the door behind her. And for the first time, the silence didn't feel peaceful. It felt permanent. That night, I sat alone at my desk and stared at my laptop screen. One email stood out. Subject: Legal update, mortgage investigation. It was from Karen, my attorney. I opened it. Rachel, I've spoken with the lending institution. They've confirmed irregularities in the documentation. They're opening a fraud case internally and are requesting a sworn affidavit from you by end of week. This is progress. Stay strong. I leaned back in my chair. Progress. At least something was moving forward. But everything else, family, trust, belonging, seemed to be collapsing in the rearview mirror. I closed my laptop and whispered to myself, this isn't the end. It's the start of the real battle. By the end of that week, I had signed the affidavit, 8 pages, sworn under penalty of perjury, detailing everything Sierra had done, from the forged mortgage to the phantom credit cards to the silent manipulation that had shredded my life one swipe at a time. Karen, my attorney, emailed it to the mortgage company, and followed up with a formal demand to freeze the foreclosure proceedings under fraud status. "This puts the pressure on," she said, "and it forces them to take your side seriously." But within days, Sierra fought back. Her lawyer, some boutique defense guy from Los Angeles with a $600 haircut and a reputation for high-profile family disputes, sent over a counterclaim. A signed letter, allegedly from me. It stated that I had agreed to let Sierra use my name to build her future and was now attempting to retract support due to sibling rivalry. Sibling rivalry? My jaw clenched so hard I thought I cracked a molar. "She's faking my permission now?" I said to Karen over Zoom. Karen nodded grimly. "It's a stall tactic. They're hoping to confuse the narrative, turn it into a she said, and maybe scare you into backing down." I scoffed. They don't know who they're dealing with. But truthfully, I was exhausted. Every day brought a new email, a new document, a new deadline. My day job was suffering. I missed meetings, snapped at coworkers. I stopped replying to texts, even from the people who did support me. I had to remind myself to eat, to sleep, to breathe. But I kept going, because this wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about reclaiming me. Karen filed a formal rebuttal to the forged permission letter, including samples of my real signature, and demanded handwriting analysis. At the same time, she requested a deposition from Sierra under oath. That's when things escalated fast. Sierra's lawyer responded with a new offer. If we agreed to settle quietly, Sierra would voluntarily assume the debt over time and avoid criminal charges. Translation: she wanted to walk away with no consequences, no trial, no admission of guilt. Just another fake agreement with empty promises. I looked at the proposal, then at Karen. "No," I said. "We go all the way." Karen didn't flinch. "I hoped you'd say that." But that night, I cried harder than I had since this whole thing began. Not because I regretted the choice, but because I finally understood the cost of justice. It wasn't just time, or money, or energy. It was isolation, disbelief from people who were supposed to love you. The knowledge that once this went public, I'd lose the last shreds of family I had left. I stood by my window, lights off, staring into the city below. And for the first time, I whispered out loud what I hadn't wanted to admit. I'm going to win, but I might walk away with no one left. The deposition was held in a small conference room downtown. Neutral walls, fluorescent lighting, no cameras, no theatrics, just two lawyers, a court reporter, and the wreckage of a family. I arrived 10 minutes early, folder in hand. Karen sat beside me, calm as always. "She'll be rattled," she said softly. "Don't react. Don't engage. Let the silence do the work." I nodded. The door opened, and in walked Sierra, hair curled, minimal makeup, a white blouse and pencil skirt that screamed respectable victim. For a second, I almost didn't recognize her. She looked small, like the mask didn't fit as well anymore. She gave me a quick glance, then looked away. No smile, no smugness, just avoidance. Her lawyer, Mr. Blake, launched into a warm, rehearsed introduction. "We're here in good faith," he said. "Sierra's ready to provide full transparency." Karen didn't blink. "Great. Let's begin." The court reporter swore Sierra in, under penalty of perjury. And then the question started. "Did you apply for a mortgage using Rachel Monroe's name?" "No." "Did you open any credit card accounts listing her as the primary holder?" "No." "Did you live at the property purchased under her name?" A pause. Then, "I visited, but I didn't live there." Karen leaned forward slightly. "So, to confirm, the home you tagged yourself in 23 times on social media, which had no other resident listed, was not your place of residence?" Sierra hesitated. Then, "I was staying there temporarily with my fiancé. Can you provide his contact information? He's traveling internationally right now." "And your fiancé's legal name?" Another pause, then a mumble. "Jackson Lee." Karen slid a paper forward. "This is a certified background check. There is no Jackson Lee connected to that address, or to you, in the last 18 months. Sierra shifted uncomfortably. I don't know what to say." Karen didn't let up. "Did Rachel Monroe ever give you written permission to sign on her behalf?" We talked about it. She said she might help. Is that documented? No. Did she ever send an email, text, or written statement giving you legal authority to assume her identity for financial purposes? Silence. Then finally, no. Karen sat back. I have no further questions at this time. Sierra's lawyer looked visibly tense. He knew it. She cracked. After the deposition, as we packed up, Sierra stood slowly. For the first time, she looked me in the eye. Rachel, she started. I didn't let her finish. You're not sorry. You're scared. Her mouth opened. Closed. She didn't deny it. As I walked out of the building, Karen turned to me. That went well, she said. I nodded. But inside, I felt none of the triumph I'd expected. Just this hollow ache that said, she's slipping, and I don't know if I want her to fall or be caught. It started with a lock on the gate. 2 weeks after the deposition, the Palm Springs mansion was no longer accessible. The mortgage lender had initiated fraud-based foreclosure proceedings. Utilities were shut off, mail delivery suspended, and the code to the front gate changed by court order. Sierra had been evicted. Not officially, not with sirens or handcuffs, but quietly, cleanly, like the fantasy had finally expired. Karen called me on a Tuesday morning. They're freezing the asset, she said. The property will be marked under fraud seizure. She can't touch it, can't sell, can't even step foot on the driveway. I didn't know what to say. It should have felt like justice, but all I could picture was my little sister, suitcase in hand, standing outside a house she built on lies, watching it disappear like a sandcastle in high tide. Then came the articles. Local influencer under investigation for identity theft. Bridal shower turns into legal battleground. From brunch to bankruptcy, how a California woman faked her way into luxury. Sierra wasn't just facing legal consequences now. She was public. Her name was tagged. Her pictures reposted. Comments flooded her Instagram. Scammer. Fraud queen. Girl boss gone rogue. Some people cheered. Others mocked. But me? I turned off my phone. I wasn't ready to be part of the show. Because buried beneath the headlines and hashtags was a reality no one saw. I was tired. My face broke out from stress. I clutched my chest during panic attacks in the middle of the night. I kept forgetting simple things. Passwords, keys, appointments. I was unraveling. But I had to hold it together. Because Sierra had finally started to break. Her lawyer sent Karen an email that read more like a surrender flag. My client is open to a plea arrangement, assuming reduced criminal penalties and protection against civil suit from her sister. Karen forwarded it to me with one line. It's happening. But that night, as I sat alone with Chinese takeout and a credit monitoring dashboard still flagged in bright red, I didn't feel like I'd won anything. I felt like I'd lost a decade of peace. Then my phone buzzed. A new message. Sierra, I know I don't deserve it, but can we talk? No emojis. No hearts. No fake sunshine. Just a sentence. A single, human, sentence. I stared at it for a long time, then put the phone down. Not out of hatred, but because I didn't know what I wanted anymore. Justice. Closure. Forgiveness. Could you ever really win when the person who hurt you was someone you used to share a bunk bed with? Outside my window, the city lights kept glowing, like they didn't care whose world had just fallen apart. And for the first time, I let myself ask the question, what happens after the dust settles? Because maybe the legal battle was ending, but the emotional war, that was just getting started. I didn't respond to her message that night, or the next. It took me 3 days to gather the nerve, and even then, I didn't text her back. I called. She picked up on the first ring. Hello. Her voice was small. Nothing like the girl who once strutted across bridal showers like a queen. Sierra. It's me. A pause. Then, I didn't think you'd call. Neither did I. Another pause. Silence didn't feel awkward this time. It felt necessary. I'm sorry, she said, breaking it. The words hung in the air like smoke. Heavy. Visible. I didn't rush to respond. Not because I didn't hear her, but because I'd waited so long to hear it. I wasn't sure if it was real. I know I don't deserve a second chance, she continued. But I wanted to say it. Out loud. To your voice. Not just to a screen. I took a breath. Why, Sierra? She exhaled. It sounded shaky, raw. Because I wanted to feel important. You stole everything from me. I know. You didn't just ruin my credit. You ruined trust. You made me question whether I ever really knew you. I don't think I knew me either, she whispered. I was playing a role so long, I started believing the lines. That's not an excuse. I know. The sincerity in her voice cracked something in me. Not forgiveness. Not yet, but understanding. You always made it look so easy, she said. Saving money. Having a plan. Being admired. I wasn't admired. I was exhausted. We both went quiet. Then softly. I've started counseling, she said. Court mandated, but it's helping. I nodded, even though she couldn't see it. That's good. I want to pay it back. All of it. It'll take you years. I know. But I want you to know. I'm trying. I leaned against my window. Street lights flickered below. People moved on sidewalks. Life went on, even when families broke. I'm not ready to forgive you, I said honestly. I didn't expect you to. But I don't hate you either. That caught her off guard. Really? I hate what you did. Not who you are. I heard her cry. Not dramatic sobs. Just soft, quiet tears. The kind you cry when the performance ends and all that's left is the truth. Thanks for calling, she said eventually. I didn't do it for you, I said. I know. We stayed on the line for a few more seconds, breathing, listening. Then I said, "Good night, Sierra." And I hung up, not because I needed to run, but because for the first time since this started, I was ready to walk forward. Not with her. Not yet, but finally without looking back. 1 year and 3 months after the call from the mortgage company, I sat in the corner office of my financial advisor, holding a document I thought I'd never see again. "Congratulations, Rachel," Marcus said, sliding the paper across his desk. "The last fraudulent account has been removed from your credit report. Your score is back in the excellent range, 742. You did it." I didn't cry. I thought I would, but instead I smiled. Quietly, fully, like someone who had just found the ground under their feet again. Because it wasn't just a number. It was my identity. My future. Mine again. It had taken dozens of certified letters, hundreds of hours on the phone, court appearances, therapy sessions, and conversations I never imagined having. But I was here, not in the same place I started. Somewhere better. Not because everything was perfect, but because I was no longer afraid to protect myself. I had a new apartment, a new budget, a new approach to family. My mother and I spoke occasionally now. Our conversations were careful, polite, surface level. She still supported Sierra. I didn't fight her on it anymore. That was her choice, and I had mine. Sierra was halfway through her probation. She had a retail job, an accountability counselor, and, slowly, she was making restitution payments. Tiny amounts, but consistent. We spoke once a month. Nothing deep, nothing dramatic, but honest. That was enough for now. People ask me if I regret pressing charges. If I ever wished I had handled it quietly. Here's what I say. Asterisk, if someone burns down your house, you don't whisper about the smoke. You scream until someone hands you a fire extinguisher. And then you rebuild. Brick by brick. Stronger. Asterisk. This story isn't about revenge. It's not even really about identity theft. It's about boundaries. The ones we're taught to ignore for the sake of family. The ones we're guilted into bending. The ones we abandon to keep the peace. Even when it costs us everything. I used to believe love meant protection at all costs. But now I know. Real love includes accountability. And protecting yourself doesn't mean you don't love someone. It means you're willing to stop enabling the version of them that hurts others. Would I do it all over again? Yes. Because I got my name back. My credit back. My freedom back. But more than that, I got to be someone I finally respected. So if you're watching this, and you've ever been betrayed by someone close, if you've ever been called dramatic, harsh, ungrateful just for asking someone to treat you with basic decency, this story is for you. You're not alone. You're not wrong. And protecting yourself is not selfish. It's essential. Thank you for listening. And if this story resonated with you, drop a comment. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because healing starts with one decision. No more silence. If this story resonated with you, leave a comment. Tell us, have you ever had to heal without an apology? And what gave you the strength to keep going anyway? Speech balloon, you never know. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Bell, like, subscribe, and share if you believe in turning pain into power. And remember, your story isn't over. It's just beginning.